The Indiana Fever, missing 6 players including Caitlin Clark, just handed the Las Vegas Aces their biggest postseason gut punch, and Lexie Hull didn't hold back. Aaliyah Boston's defense had the MVP A'ja Wilson on the ropes, Kelsey Mitchell was unstoppable, and role players came alive. And the locker room, pure celebration. So how is it possible that this team, the one nobody believed in except for the Fever fans, just forced a do-or-die Game 5 with a trip to the WNBA Finals on the line? And what did Lexie Hull say about Kelsey Mitchell that tells you exactly why this team believes? What happens when everyone counts you out? ESPN analysts didn't give them a chance, odds makers painted Las Vegas as the safe bet, and even the 2-time champs made it clear they weren't worried. But the Indiana Fever, the team limping through a postseason with 6 players missing including Caitlin Clark, refused to fold. This wasn't just another playoff game, this was survival with their season dangling by a thread. No, I mean, it's desperation. And it's not a reckless desperation, it's just a desperation in terms of the urgency that you have to play with. We have been in these situations, we've been in lots of different situations throughout the course of the season, and our players understand what we have to do. We have to leave it all out on the floor. Picture the scene heading into Game 4. The 6th-seeded Fever already down in the series, missing half their rotation with players in street clothes, and trying to match up against a fully loaded Aces squad packed with titles, awards, and swagger. Nobody outside Indianapolis believed this game would be close. It was supposed to be the night the Aces finished the job. Instead, Gainbridge Fieldhouse became the backdrop for one of the gutsiest wins this team has ever delivered. The challenges ran deeper than just injuries. A veteran who had been in their locker room had quit the team mid-season and moved to Phoenix. Add in repeated friction with officiating, and the feeling that calls weren't going their way, and the Fever had every excuse to let the season go. But they didn't. They came into Game 4 knowing this was elimination game number 3 of their playoff run. Twice before they'd been pushed to the brink, twice before they walked out with wins. So how do you pull off a third? By playing with the desperation of a team that never accepted they were finished. I can't even lie, after last game, I thought the Fever were done. I don't know if they had any more fight in them. They looked tired, they looked kind of beat up. And somehow they come out today in their Stranger Things jerseys, which by the way I think have magical powers. They come out in their Stranger Things jerseys and beat the Aces. And they beat the Aces even with A'ja scoring 31 points, I believe it was, playing so much more efficiently than last game. And somehow they come out and win this game with their backs against the wall, win or go home game, and force a Game 5 against the Aces. They had to be sharp. They had to protect possessions, get stops, and trust their offense. And most importantly, they had to match Vegas in intensity. By halftime, the tone had shifted. Indiana controlled tempo, frustrated the Aces with disciplined defense, and turned every chance mistake from Vegas into momentum. When Aces coach Becky Hammon burned a timeout she didn't have, the technical foul that followed became the kind of turning point you only get when pressure flips sides. The Aces, who were supposed to dominate, watched Indiana stretch the lead on a mistake that spoke volumes about who really played free and who felt fate closing in. This win wasn't about lucky breaks. It was about a team outlasting Vegas through toughness, composure, and a will to keep believing when no one else did. With it, Indiana didn't just extend the series. They stood one step away from their first WNBA Finals in a decade. And in that fight, individual players became the heartbeat of an unlikely story. How does a team that only has 9 healthy rotation players manage to look like the deepest group on the floor? That's exactly what Indiana pulled off in Game 4. At the center of it all was Kelsey Mitchell. She poured in 25 points, hit clutch jumpers, and iced the game with free throws while Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted with MVP chants. For a player once overlooked, hearing thousands of voices call her name felt like a crown waiting to be claimed. We'll reveal exactly what Lexie Hull said about Kelsey in a moment, but while Mitchell scored with the fearlessness of a team leader, she wasn't driving the story alone. Aaliyah Boston put together a masterclass against the reigning MVP A'ja Wilson. Wilson still racked up 31 points, but every single shot came with Boston planted as a wall in the paint. Her work on defense made Vegas earn everything, while on the other end she hammered away with 24 points of her own, grabbing 14 rebounds and dishing out 5 assists. That meant Wilson couldn't just focus on scoring, she had to fight Boston possession after possession. One analyst even called Boston's game tremendous, pointing to her ability to screen, seal, finish inside, and still protect the rim. Watching her anchor the floor was the kind of two-way dominance Indiana hasn't seen since Tamika Catchings. Then there was Lexie Hull. On paper, she wasn't supposed to even play the kind of minutes she did because of a nagging back injury after being body-slammed by Wilson during games 1 and 2. But instead of being a liability, she turned into the defensive engine. She shadowed Jackie Young, stripped passes clean for 4 steals, and still found enough to grab 7 rebounds. Add in her timely 7 points, and suddenly Indiana's defense looked impossible to crack. The intangibles mattered most: diving for loose balls, fighting through pain, and setting an example that everyone else on the roster fed off. In fewer games, his Hull knocks it away, and it stays in bounds. That's the second time that Hull has saved the layup with her weak side help defense. Shea Petty in off the bench. Definitely White liked the way she battled at game 3. Boston gives it up. Mitchell, Wilson switched on her. Now Young gets back. All connects. Out of 3. Odyssey Sims's story might have been the most surprising. After a rough game 3, where nothing fell her way, plenty of fans wondered if she'd have an impact. In game 4, she stormed out with 18 points on 6 for 9 shooting, even knocking down her only 3-point attempt. Her slashes to the basket carved open Vegas's defense and forced them to collapse, which opened up space for Mitchell and Boston to work with. It was the definition of a bounce-back performance, the kind of redemption every playoff run needs somewhere along the line. Oh, just leave that game where it is. It's the past. Focus on today. Didn't change my mind. That didn't change anything. Decided just be more aggressive. Making sure we gotta beat the ball. Nobody could stop it down there. Love their aggression today. Well, we carry it over on Tuesday. Keep it going so we can get to the finals. And in the background, Shea Petty quietly played her role to perfection. 7 points, 2 steals, and moments where her calm presence was like oxygen in the middle of chaos. When the ball got stuck and everyone looked rattled, Petty slowed things down, read the floor, and steadied the moment. That's what veterans do. They don't need the brightest stat line. They bring security when panic is about to creep in. Alliards looked just sitched. Think that would change if they redraft him. There's Petty all the way in off the steal. Say Teddy. Yeah, but in piece by piece, each player flipped the doubts that surrounded the fever into fuel. Together, they proved something powerful. That "we over me" wasn't just Aaliyah Boston's catchphrase. It was the way this team beat the Aces blow for blow. Indiana didn't just escape with a win. They matched Vegas's stars, countered their scoring runs, and forced the champs to taste doubt for the first time in years. And while Boston, Hull, Sims, and Petty carved out unforgettable moments, the night still circled around one player, Kelsey Mitchell, who carried Indiana through every storm. What did Lexie Hull whisper about her longest-running teammate that made Fever fans emotional? To get that answer, you have to understand the story of Kelsey Mitchell. She has been in Indiana for 8 seasons, and most of those years were filled with heartbreak. Losing seasons piled up. The team around her never quite fit, and the franchise slipped further from the glory days, with one season having a dismal 5 wins. Mitchell stayed anyway. She carried losses, she carried the weight of being the consistent scorer when defenses keyed in on her, and she carried real pain off the court too, losing her father earlier this year. For a lot of players, that grind might have broken spirit. For Kelsey Mitchell, it lit a different kind of fire. This season, Indiana couldn't afford to hide her in the flow. Injuries put 6 teammates on the sidelines, and Caitlin Clark was one of them. Every offensive trip down the floor seemed to run back to her. Some nights it worked, some nights it didn't, but she never stopped showing up. The truth is, she was the one player who never treated this rebuild as wasted time. She stayed steady for a fan base that had almost forgotten what winning felt like. So when Game 4 turned into another do-or-die moment, the stage felt built for her. With minutes left, she took the ball at the top of the key, called for a screen, and hit mid-range pull-ups like clockwork. Every drive forced Vegas into foul trouble. Every cut bent their defense. And then came the moment. Standing at the line, up against the 2-time champs, the crowd rocking around her, MVP chants crashing down from every corner of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. She stayed calm, knocked down free throws, and walked back on defense like nothing had happened. That poise under pressure was the mark of a leader. Aaliyah Boston always talks about "we over me," And in many ways this team actually plays that way. But even within that, Boston pointed out that nights like this show why Mitchell's role in the we is different. Everyone feeds off her. She is the reminder that all the losing never went to waste. And then came Lexie Hull. She's been Mitchell's teammate through the hardest years, and after this win, she finally said what fans were thinking. She deserves her flowers. It hit because it was real. Mitchell isn't just shining in a moment. She became the face of surviving the darkness, the reason Indiana is alive heading into Game 5. Now, one more game stands between her and the history she has waited her entire career for. First and foremost, just an extreme amount of pride for her. She has been through a lot, with this franchise. And the second thing is just, pride in her work and how much work she's put in to position herself to be in this moment. She loves this game. She just wants to play. And I'm incredibly proud of her. I'm thankful that our fans continue to recognize her greatness. And I'm thankful that she decided to come back and join us. Certainly because I have watched Kelsey from afar and have wanted to coach her for such a long time and have enjoyed, every opportunity that I've had. Vegas won game. Everything on the line. The Fever just sent shockwaves through Gainbridge Fieldhouse, but now the challenge shifts to Nevada. The Michelob Ultra Arena will host a do-or-die matchup to decide who goes to the finals, and it is the kind of atmosphere that swallows most visiting teams. Their fans know how to create a wall of noise, and the Fever will have to stare straight into it with their season at stake. For Indiana, the magnitude couldn't be clearer. They sit one victory away from their first finals appearance in 10 years. That kind of drought defines franchises. Think about it. The last time the Fever were on that stage, much of their current roster was still in college or even high school. This isn't just a chance for revenge against the MVP, it's a rewriting of identity. But Las Vegas isn't going to hand it over lightly. A'ja Wilson has already made history by crossing 1,000 career playoff points in Game 4. And no one doubts she'll come out swinging. Expect her to be aggressive from the opening tip, pushing Aaliyah Boston and the Fever forwards into foul trouble early if she can. I think the biggest thing for us is again, like we've been through everything. So being in these types of situations, isn't new to us. It's when we've been at our best and we've got to continue to be. This group really just rallies around one another. The desperation and the urgency, that we play with when we're in those positions has been exactly what we need. And we've just got to bottle that up and take it with us. I mean, it's a one-game season right now. And we got to carry it all over. Game 4 showed the formula for Indiana. Boston anchored the paint with 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists. That balance tipped the duel with Wilson into a grind. Each shot for Wilson mattered because Boston made her work on both ends. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell was the closer, dropping 25 and sealing the game at the stripe. Add Odyssey Sims bringing 18 points off slashes to the rim, and Lexie Hull's 7 rebounds with 4 steals while defending Jackie Young, and you had a formula that dismantled Vegas inside their own comfort zone. Game 5 comes down to matchups. Boston versus Wilson will be another war in the paint. Mitchell's ability to break traps and pressure defense will dictate whether Indiana scores and flow or stalls out. Hull's back remains a question, but her minutes chasing Young could be just as important as any shot she hits. If she can give Indiana defense without wearing down, that edge could swing a few possessions that decide it all. For the Aces, adjustments will be key. Becky Hammond's late timeout mistake in Game 4, when she asked for one they didn't have, underscored how rattled Vegas became under pressure. At home, expect them to stabilize. Expect Wilson fed constantly, expect Young hunting offense, and expect Chelsea Gray, if healthy, to shoulder more playmaking to settle rhythm. The Aces know what elimination feels like, and they aren't used to it. Indiana's blueprint stays simple. Defend without fouling. Control tempo with patience. Trust Mitchell late. They've already thrived in elimination spots, now 3-0 in games where the season could have ended. Coach Stephanie White put it bluntly. The desperation and urgency we play with when we're in those positions has been exactly what we need. That has become their identity. The Fever feed on pressure. The Aces have pride. Indiana has resilience. One more night of belief places the Fever in the finals and validates every hardship of this journey. But whether they walk into Mandalay Bay and shock the Aces, or fall just short, the truth is clear. This run has already reset what we should expect from Indiana Fever basketball. And I think for me, this from day one has just been a really special group. We've hit a lot of adversity collectively. I had some tough stuff that I was going through, personally, and this group would just rallied around me, rally around each other, and truly do live the mantra of we over me. And it's just been a really, really special group. You don't always get these opportunities to coach groups like this, at the professional level especially. And I think because they're who they are as human beings, it allows us to continue to put one foot in front of the other. The Indiana Fever are one win away from their first finals appearance in a decade. After a season of setbacks and a postseason filled with elimination games, this team has turned every obstacle into fuel. Now, everything comes down to Tuesday night in Las Vegas. So the question is, can the team that everyone counted out make Vegas pay on their home floor? Fans, this is the moment to rally. Whatever happens, the future is bright. Caitlin Clark will be back, and Indiana is building something special that could define the next era.